America is considered the melting pot of the world. People of all nationalities come to America and eventually become Americans. Native Americans have been settled in North America for thousands of years. White men settlers came and forced Native Americans from their homes, creating a conflict between the two cultures. Later, when the United States government was established, they resolved the conflict by setting aside various parts of the land for the Native Americans. They were given rights to govern their own land. What the United States government did calmed the conflict, but it created a gap between the two cultures, thus preventing the two cultures to melt together.
The reservation was a place where, the place I lived, we had what's called a hogan. And a hogan is sort of like an adobe structure. I don't know if you've seen those Pueblo housings. It's made of basically rock and clay, but it's in a circular pattern, and that's what you call a hogan. And most Navajos on the reservation traditionally, or actually since they've been confined to the reservation, started living in these hogans. It's sort of like an adobe house, like a Pueblo housing. And that's where we lived, and I have 10 siblings, and so there's 11 of us. And I'm right in the middle, so 5 of them ahead and then 5 of them behind. And we've all sort of went our separate ways. I'm the only one that went on to college and went ahead and finished. I have one other sister who went on to college, but she only did 3 years, and sort of just for her own personal reasons, she didn't continue.
Most Native Americans do not graduate from high school. If they do graduate, it's rare to go on to college. Why is there a lack of motivation?
I really didn't think much of education, because it was sort of like a prison. You had to go to this boarding school, and it was it was the law that you had to go to school. And so from my early days, I guess I didn't look at education as something that was important. But my mom always looked at that as something that was really important to her. In fact, I remember my mom always saying, you need to get an education, and you need to. To her, an education, a good education, was just getting a high school degree.
Another factor is that there is 80% alcoholism within the Native American culture.
I didn't really like where I was with my aunt. She was she was an alcoholic. And anybody who's lived with an alcoholic just knows that it's hard to live with, in that environment with, that type of people. And also, like I was telling you, my mom was an alcoholic too. So that made it hard, and I went from going from my mom to my aunt, and then going from one alcoholic to another, and it's just, the same old thing.
Tim has experience from the reservation that helps him recognize a gap that remains between the cultures.
I think with a cultural gap, sometimes that's a part of understanding people. When you have that experience, when you can, coming from a background that you do, you become a little bit more sensitive to. And the more you understand a people or a culture, a class, whatever, I think that just makes you more effective as a doctor and how to communicate with your patients and stuff like that. And it's funny because when people, my colleagues, a lot of them have, never had problems like that. And when I tell them, listen here, I came from the reservation and I do this, but I don't say that just openly. I sort of make it little by little, and you can't teach people overnight. You know what I mean? I just sort of look at my colleagues, and I'll just say, "You're so lucky you at least had parents that taught you how to do things." That says a lot. You don't realize how much help you get just from having parents. When you don't have parents and you're the oldest one in your family at 8 years old, trying to take care of your brothers and sisters, that's a responsibility that's really taught me some valuable things, but at the same time it's taken away some childhood experiences that I could have had, as having parents and stuff like that were being taught. I wasn't really taught anything, you know what I mean? So, but my experiences have taught me a lot.
Tim has had success in his professional life. He is now becoming a doctor. Even though political issues remain, Tim is one Native American who is helping in bridging that gap between the two cultures.